bunny head. So you were given 4 pieces. You have eyes, and one side has like an adhesive on the back, and the other one is just wood. The wood side is what we're going to paint. So I'm going to put those aside. You're going to have a nose and the head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by putting 2 coats of white on my head, and then I'll put 2 coats of pink on my nose, and then 2 coats of black on my eyes. But you could do it any color that you like. We're just using acrylic paint, so if you have anything else that you want to use, go for it. So I'm going to start by just putting 2 coats on my bunny head. So I put 1 coat on my bunny. I am just going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to make a little pink by mixing red and white together. I'm going to turn one of those into pink. So I'm just going to take my smaller brush, and I am just going to slowly add red into my pink. And as I'm adding it, I just stir it around. You don't want it to be too dark. Want it to be too light. I think I'm going to go. So I'm going to go 3 scoops. Once you have the pink that you'd like, you could give 2 coats on your nose while the first coat of our bunny is drying. So I'm going to do 2 coats on my nose and do your edges as well. After I do my first coat, he's over there, I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to go back with my big brush and put a second coat on my bunny. Put 2 coats on my bunny. I'm going to go back and put another coat on my nose. My nose is good. I'm going to put my bunny aside a little, and I'm going to bring back my eyes. So when we paint our eyes, we just need to make sure we're painting the wood side. So I'm just washing my brush, my little brush, and I'm going to take some white, some black, and we are just going to paint our eyes black. So I'm going to paint the first coat, let it dry for a second, and then go back with the second coat. I'm going to go back with my second coat. then set those aside. And then wash out your little brush really well, because at this point I am going to add some pink details to my bunny head while my paint is just a little bit wet. So this, you either have an option, I'm going to add some pink into my ears, and I'm also going to add some pink cheeks, but if you don't want to use pink in the ears, you could also make a little gray on a little cap. You could mix some white and a little tiny bit of black. So I'm going to start by making 2 cheeks. So make sure your brush, your little brush, is really cleaned. We don't want any of that black that we just used getting in our brush. And while my paint is still wet, I'm just going to give just a circle and a circle, and then I'm going to just take some of that paint off and just blend it in. And it should become like a really light pink. I'm also going to add some pink to the center of my ears. So I am just going to make like a little leaf shape in each ear. And I'm just going to fill it in. I'm not even going to put more paint on the brush. I'm just going to use what is on my brush already and just blend it with that white. If they end up looking more like ovals, that's fine. At this point, once you have your pink done, I gave you guys a little sponge. Either it's a sponge brush or one of these round things. And what you could do is you could just dab on top of your ears. And you don't put any paint on this, we're just using it to dab. On top of my ears, it just gives it a little texture. Blends it a little bit. Top of my ears, and I'm going to do a little on my cheeks as well. Yes. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little pink on my dabber, whatever sponge I have to dab, and I'm just going to put a little pink around the edges as well of my bunny. I'm going to do that all around. And once I dab, if I dab in the paint, I use a paper towel and take a little bit of that paint off because we don't want too much paint. If you get too much paint, you could just go over, put a little white on your dabber as well. Going along the sides as well. I think he looks good. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry pretty much completely before we add any of the details. Since my eyes and my nose are pretty much dry, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab those. So we're gonna have our eyes and then our nose, and then we'll make a little mouth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some light reflections in my eyes and my nose. I'm just going to, you've probably seen me do this before, I'm going to use the back of my paintbrush, and I'm just going to put a dot in each eye. I'm going to put it going towards like in the same direction, or the same side. If you put it on the left side, put it on the left side, and the other. If you put it on the right side, put it on the right side. And I'm also going to add a little light reflection in my nose too. Instead of a dot, I'm going to do like a little line. So that looks good. So I'm gonna let those dry. I'm gonna let everything dry, and then we're going to draw the face on and maybe draw some little features. So, all right, we're gonna let that dry probably about like 10 to 15 minutes. So my bunny parts are dry, except for the little white, but that's okay. So I put them on my bunny to just, this is how I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna draw eyebrows, a little mouth, and some whiskers. So you have a choice. Either you can put your eyes close together, which I like, or you can put them further apart, which is cute as well. I'll do this one further apart right now. So what you're gonna do, the first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna find your little brush, and you're gonna dip in a tiny bit of black paint. The less paint you have on your brush, the thinner your lines will be. So once I have that, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a tiny little mark right under my nose, and I'll take my nose away. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to make, from that dot, I'm just gonna make a little line going up. And then I'm just going to make a mouth. So you could do this with a Sharpie as well if you feel more confident with that. But I'm just gonna make a backwards J. And I have a teeny bit of paint on my brush. And then another little. So there I have my little mouth for my little bunny. Now we'll also add some whiskers, and I'm going to just put 3 whiskers on each side. So I'm going to make them coming out of here. 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to kind of mirror that on the other side. 1, 2, and 3. If they're light, you just go back. My nose back so you can kind of visually see what it looks like. Now you can leave it at that. I'm going to put little eyebrows on him. I'm just going to put a line over each eye to make like little eyebrows. So I'm going to let this all dry, and then when it dries, we're going to come back and glue it. So now that everything is dried a little bit, I'm going to glue it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take some glue, and you could use any glue. I just have a school glue. I'm going to glue my nose on. I'm going to glue my nose on. Glue my nose, and then the back has like, it's an adhesive on the back, so you could just peel it off, and it makes it a little sticky, and then put your eyes down. If that's not sticky enough for you, you can just use glue. And there you have your bunny. So you're just gonna wait for that paint to dry, and then you can just stand him up, and he's a perfect spring decoration.